Welcome to the Ambulance World podcast, where we are making global EMS connections. Ambulance World is the only website dedicated solely to the practice of emergency medical services across the globe. Now here is today's broadcast from the Ambulance World International Headquarters in scenic Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
Hi everybody, this is Evan over here at ambulanceworld.com, and welcome aboard. Today is October 11th, so today's 10/11/12, so happy 10/11/12. Today I'm going to introduce Eitan Charnoff. Now, we actually did an interview with him end of June, beginning of July. He was one of our first interviews here on Ambulance World, and I interviewed him. He was in Israel, I was here in the United States, and the connection was terrible. So if any of you actually looked at the video on either YouTube or a podcast upload, the audio was awful. I actually sent it out to a special place where they manipulate the audio and try to get his sound quality better. And it was a little bit better, but it wasn't great. So he's back. He was back in the United States about 2 weeks ago. And we got a chance to sit down, well, not face-to-face. He was in Washington, D.C. I'm in New Jersey. And I was able to do an interview with him at that point. The Skype that we did the interview by, we're only about a couple hundred miles apart, was much clearer, so you can understand him. It's clear now. So, a little bit of a background. Eitan is from the United States. He's a young guy. He's in his early 20s. He lives in Israel currently, is an EMT in Israel, and just graduated college. And he is a recruiter for an organization called EVP, Emergency Volunteers Project. And this is what he's here to discuss. So it's kind of a cool program for you guys out there, for you EMS people. If you're thinking about maybe you want to go overseas, you want to get some overseas experience, doing some cool stuff, training with people in other countries with different perspectives, this is really a good way to kind of dive into the deep end of the pool. This is a program that's recruiting paramedics, nurses, doctors, and lay people as well to volunteer and train, well, to initially train in Israel with the emergency services, and then in case of a disaster to assist with disaster relief. And if you listen in the interview, Eitan will talk about the details of that, exactly when there's a call up and what the need is and what the training is. So it's kind of interesting stuff, and it's kind of a great way to go overseas and get some experience in EMS while helping people out and doing a good thing. So let me go ahead and introduce Eitan, and he'll be able to explain the details of this much better. And stay safe out there, guys. Take care. Okay, welcome everybody. We have Eitan Charnoff from EVP. I'll have him introduce the organization and explain the acronym, because I goofed that last time that we did this. Eitan, this time, the reason we're redoing this is last time we did this, Eitan, we were interviewing him from Israel, and the sound quality was awful. So now we have him in the United States. He's about 100 miles away from where I am. The sound quality is awesome, but as you can see, the picture quality is not so much. So he's in the backwoods of Washington, D.C. So welcome aboard, Eitan. Welcome back to the States.
Thank you, Evan.
So, Eitan, why don't you tell us a little bit about EVP? Tell us a little bit about the organization and what your mission is, what it is you're trying to accomplish.
Okay, so before I actually explain what the organization does, I'd like to explain what the need is first.
Okay.
And that I do by providing some context about Israel and the security situation we currently find ourselves in.
Okay.
So Israel is a country in the Middle East, the only Western democracy, and it's roughly the size of New Jersey with a population of 7 million people.
Okay.
None of our neighboring countries, I should say, are particularly friendly with us. We have peace agreements with Egypt and Jordan, but they're very shaky at best, and probably the coldest peace agreements that exist in the world. Our other neighbors are even less friendly, specifically Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria. where all three of those regions have literally tens of thousands of rockets pointed at Israel. In recent years, these rockets have actually been fired in thousands, which led Israel to fight 2 wars in 2006 and 2008 to defeat the terrorist threat and stop the missiles.
Okay.
And some good friends of mine, who are paramedics and firefighters in Israel, got together after the 2006 war with Hezbollah, where literally like thousands of rockets were fired into Israel on a weekly basis, which injured hundreds of people, killed quite a few, and caused 800 major fires in northern Israel. Israel, like I said, is a small country with a small population. We have no mutual aid agreements with our neighbors. As a result, we're left to fend for ourselves in a time of crisis. On a day-to-day basis, our EMS and fire crews are some of the best trained in the world and can manage the day-to-day emergency calls. But in times of crisis, we're really stretched to near the breaking point in terms of manpower. So after the war in 2006, some of my friends got together and created the EVP, the Emergency Volunteers Project, which seeks to bring highly skilled paramedics and EMTs from all over the world into Israel in a time of crisis to staff apparatus on the ground with indigenous Israeli crews.
That's awesome.
I think so too. It's a great opportunity to get training in Israel, be certified as a fully fledged firefighter or EMT in Israel by probably the best trained mass casualty response guys in the world.
Well, I can tell you, here on Ambulance World, we actually have an interview with Chaim Rafalovsky,
From Magen David Adom.
Right, and his title is something like a disaster preparedness coordinator. I'm probably botching his exact title, but he talks a lot about the needs in Israel in general, not specific to EVP, in general for emergency preparedness and what the capabilities are and some of the history and all of that. If people listening to this, to listen to that podcast, really pretty amazing stuff. So you're looking for people from Western countries to come to Israel, firefighters, EMTs, paramedics, and such, to volunteer. Now, if somebody is interested in doing that, what do they have to do? To get on board with that?
So to get on board, it's actually very straightforward. Go to our website, evp.org.il.
I'm going to post that here on the screen as we go along, so people will have that information.
Right. You can also email us at office@evp.org.il.
Okay.
But I mean, the best way to get a feel for us is to check out our website. We have lots of great videos. I suspect you'll be posting some of those as well.
Yep.
That really explain what our program is. But it's a volunteer program. We're looking for volunteers. It's a program run by volunteers, including myself. Even the CEO is a full-time volunteer running this. There's zero overhead involved.
Okay.
So we're looking for motivated people that want to help, not people trying to get rich quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So you go to the website, you apply. So once you go through the application process, now are you looking for new providers or primarily more experienced people?
So we're exclusively looking for seasoned providers, and I'll explain to you why, and then explain to you what to expect after the application process.
Sure. Okay.
So first of all, why we're looking for seasoned guys. We're not looking for people to handle day-to-day emergencies. We're looking for people to fly into Israel in a time of disaster, such as an earthquake or a sustained conflict where we see large barrages of rockets falling on civilian areas. So we're looking for people who have experience, who know how to stay calm in stressful situations. We're looking for people who know trauma well, even though we teach it very well in our program. And we're looking for people, although they'll be speaking in English, working with crews, Israeli crews that also speak English, a lot of the environment is going to be in a foreign language. And so that has to be something that's not going to deter them. They have to be very comfortable with the knowledge they have in order to successfully work and thrive in what could be a very treacherous environment.
Okay.
So that's why we're looking for seasoned guys. Now to answer the first part of your question, maybe it was the second, either way. To answer the part of the question about what's after the application process, well, it's simple, really. We provide training opportunities both in Israel and in the U.S. As of now, we're looking to expand to other countries as well. Basically, we will fly in Israeli instructors to a location around where we have a number of volunteers willing to be trained. And there we'll teach the basics of the theory behind Israeli fire and Israeli EMS, which is different than in the U.S., primarily because of construction material differences. In the U.S., it's wood construction. In Israel, it's concrete, cinder block, and rebar. Which, for the fire side, obviously, which I'll just go into briefly because I know we're focused more on EMS, is the approach to structure fire is very different because of that. On the EMS side, the kinds of treatments that we provide in the field for certain situations are far more sophisticated than what's done in the U.S., and in other times we take a more scoop and run approach to things that in the U.S. they would take more time for in the field. So there's a lot of education on protocols involved. The trainings we offer in Israel, which are the ones I would recommend for everyone because they're more all-encompassing, is a 10-day program where we teach everything we think we need, that somebody needs in order to thrive working on a fire truck or ambulance in Israel in disaster. We teach things from, disaster management, the Israeli mass casualty system. We familiarize them with the apparatus and equipment used in Israel, which are very different than in the U.S., because we're using mostly European apparatus and a combination of international equipment. What else was I saying? Sorry, I got sidetracked for a second.
Okay.
Right, so that's the first thing we teach, what I just listed. We also teach self-defense, Krav Maga.
That's awesome.
Which is obviously useful in a disaster. You never know when you'll need to use self-defense.
Okay.
Krav Maga, for those who don't know, is an Israeli military-developed martial arts system that is remarkably brutal but efficient.
And simple.
Very simple. It's far more simple. There's no form, no sophisticated maneuvering like in most martial arts. But anyway, we also teach suspicious activity identification, how to identify somebody that just doesn't quite fit into the situation you're in and identify the threat. And then we culminate with 2 days of staffing Israeli apparatus, Israeli fire trucks and ambulances. And our volunteers get to work side by side with Israeli crews on a regular day basis. So they get to not just have a feel for what it's like to work in Israel, but they'll actually know the guys that they could be deploying with in a time of war.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. But beyond that, it sounds like it would be a really useful experience just to from what you would learn to take back to your normal work environment.
Yeah, I mean, we've already trained 500 volunteers.
Wow.
Our goal by the end of 2013 is to have 3,000.
Wow.
And a lot of what the volunteers have already gone through our training have said to us is that I go back to my local department and I have a whole new way of looking at EMS and fire because I trained with the Israelis and now I look at it from their perspective too. And I come back with a skill set I didn't have before. In addition to that, on a more technical level, we also provide a certificate at the end, which is something nice that firefighters and EMS providers can use to build their resumes with, which is obviously nice.
Oh, absolutely. And all of us in EMS have a requisite CMEs that we have to bank every couple of years, and I'm sure that comes in handy.
100%. I mean, Israel is undoubtedly one of the world's leading experts in disaster management and mass casualty. And to be able to train and deploy with those teams is a remarkable opportunity.
Yeah, actually, an interesting thing that I had read recently was with the disaster in Haiti a couple years ago. The first country to respond to be on the ground, boots on the ground in Haiti after the disaster was not the United States, which is right there. It was Israel.
Right. The Israelis sent over teams. I don't know, 6,000 or 7,000 miles, but we certainly have made a name for ourselves. But a lot of the things we do on a day-to-day basis, we don't necessarily make a name for, but we're good at what we do. We're very efficient and good at using the resources we have at our disposal.
Awesome. Now, so once somebody signs up and goes through whatever the initial sign-on period is, they do their initial trainings with you. Maybe go to Israel and do the training. So now they kind of sit back and they're in a reserve and they're in their home location, waiting, not hoping for something, but if something does happen, they get called up, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to address two things you just said. I'll
Okay.
answer your question,
Sure.
and then I'm going to touch on something you mentioned about hopefully they won't get called up.
Okay.
So exactly right. They go home. It's basically they're part of an international go team, an international search and rescue team, with a very specific purpose. So they go home to their regular communities, go about their day-to-day life, whatever they do, whatever they do. We then will call them up on a moment's notice when the need arises, and whoever from our trainees who have graduated our program, whoever is available to fly into Israel for 5 to 10 days, we organize their flights, their stay, their room and board, everything, and bring them into Israel to help staffing apparatus on the front line. To address something you mentioned in passing, hopefully this won't be needed. I agree. Hopefully this program will not be needed. But given the current security situation in and around Israel, it's looking more and more likely like we will have to deploy our teams in the near future. As the situation specifically in Syria continues to deteriorate, and there's an increasing threat that Syrian biochemical weapons can fall into terrorist hands, Israel isn't going to let that happen. And that might force our hand, requiring us to go to war, in which case we can expect hundreds, if not thousands, of rockets falling on most of our cities from neighboring countries. In that situation, I can guarantee you we're going to need to bring over every volunteer we have from EVP.
Okay. Now, how long has EVP been in existence now?
It was started in 2007, 2008, and we have yet to be needed.
Okay, that was my next question. Yeah, have you ever had to call anybody up?
We came very close. 2 years ago, there was a major fire in northern Israel where outside resources had to be scrambled. We had EVP people ready, flights booked, and at the last second, finally the fire was got under control thanks to aerial fire aircraft that were flown in from the U.S. But we came very close to deploy. Thank God we didn't have to.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's pretty neat. Now, once they go through their initial training, in time goes by, and again, hopefully you don't need to call people up. Is there going to be any kind of refresher and ongoing communication and training over the course of time?
Yeah. So first of all, we offer online refresher classes.
Okay.
We always welcome our volunteers that come to Israel to visit. We provide them tools to raise money. It's a nonprofit to pay for their second, third, fourth visits. Anytime they come, they can go through our training again. But even better than that, they can hop on Israeli apparatus and just vibe for a week. We also will send instructors out to their locations to do refreshers every once in a while as well. So we offer as many tools as we offer for the initial training. There are also a variety of options available for continued education.
So I guess so once they go through the training, will that bridge the gap or whatever needed bureaucracy is needed to allow them to actually function in their job description in Israel then?
Yes, that is the main purpose of our training.
Okay, so a paramedic, you could go ahead and give IVs and give medications and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right now, we're training paramedics to be EMTBs in Israel. They will staff mobile intensive care units working with an Israeli paramedic, but they will be certified at the moment just as an EMTB. Simply, it just takes us more time to certify them as a paramedic, and it's more time, more money, and they can be very effective assisting a medic on a medic unit in Israel.
Well, what I can say, and I probably ask you not to comment on it, is in an emergency, a lot of those fine regulations tend to get blurred and grayed, and there may not be as much of a problem as one could expect. But I would understand if you can't comment on that.
Exactly. Your words, not mine.
Exactly. Awesome.
I can tell you that in Israel, like most Western countries, we have very strong regulations as to what can and cannot be done.
And entirely too many lawyers.
What's that?
And too many lawyers.
We actually, I think, have the most lawyers per capita in the world in Israel.
I don't know if that's a bragging right or not.
I didn't say it was bragging. Stating that fact in conjunction to your previous comments.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Now, you've been working as an EMT in Israel now, right?
Yeah, I've been a volunteer EMT for 4 years in Israel.
Okay, so you have the knowledge of the United States versus Israel. Do you find it more exciting, more rewarding, different environment, same environment?
In many ways it's the same, in many ways it's different. I'll give you the first example that comes to my mind is always our difference in CPR treatment versus the US.
Okay.
This is something that when I talk to American EMS providers, they get the biggest kick out of, and it takes them a while to really wrap their head around this. They usually start by scratching their heads.
Okay.
We don't transport working codes in Israel.
Okay.
We believe that we can provide almost the same level of treatment that can be done in an ER, in an intensive care unit, in the field. Our paramedics can give quite a large number of drugs, do quite invasive procedures in the field, and so there's no reason to compromise the quality of performing CPR in order to get them to a hospital to do the same treatment you could already have done in the field.
I actually like that. Yeah.
Right. I when I first got to Israel, coming from American fire rescue and EMS, and it took me a little bit to really grasp the logic behind it. But having performed CPR so many times I can't count, sometimes 3 times in a single shift. I'm one of those guys with bad luck like that. I've really learned to appreciate the rationale behind it. I mean, if you think about it, just getting a patient from the floor onto a bed or from a ambulance gurney into a hospital gurney, you're going to interrupt that CPR.
Okay.
We don't do that. We provide uninterrupted, great CPR in a stable environment in a non-moving ambulance.
Yep. And I mean, my experience generally is that it's going to work. Your interventions are going to work or not going to work. And in that first 10 or 15 minutes of a cardiac arrest, what you do in the field, especially an ALS crew, a paramedic crew, is really indistinguishable with them from what they're going to do in the ER. So what's the purpose of stopping what you're doing, interrupting it, and in order to make the transfer?
Right. So that's certainly true. Another thing that allows us to effectively do this is in each region in Israel, effectively in each county, quote unquote, in Israel, there are a number of intensive care units, mobile intensive care units, staffed with doctors.
Okay.
And so they can actually arrive on the scene after the regular ALS crew, and if needed, declare death. And so effectively, there's literally no reason to transfer it to an ER in a working code. Because in all actuality, the reason that's done in the US is to declare death.
Okay. Now, does that happen in Israel a lot, that you have physicians showing up on scenes?
Yeah, because we have them staffing some of our ALS units.
Okay.
So every code that isn't successful, yes.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. Well, not awesome that you have unsuccessful code resuscitations,
but it's impressive that we staff a certain number of ALS units with a doctor and a paramedic instead of just a paramedic.
Okay. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put up the information for people to contact you at EVP. Check out the website. I can tell you by just looking at the videos, it gives you a lot more insight, and it kind of pumps you up a little bit more than looking at your pixelated picture here.
Yeah, I mean, no offense to our pixelated pictures, but you're absolutely right. We have some really good videos that really show just how hands-on and intensive our training are. So I really would recommend everyone who's interested or not interested to check them out, because it will change your mind.
Yeah, and if they're not interested, maybe they have a friend who's interested. Absolutely.
Right. So I mean, that's something I was going to mention. Thank you for bringing it up. If anybody watching our interview doesn't think this is for them, but thinks they might have a buddy or a friend that would be interested, definitely share our program with them.
How about now? I know this is a little bit outside of what we were planning on just talking about, but do you guys accept donations?
Yes.
Or are you looking for donations?
Yeah, we absolutely do. All donations go directly to sponsoring our volunteers' training. None of it goes to overhead, and all of that can be found on our website. Each volunteer has a profile with a little money meter next to it, how much money they need to raise for their training. And anybody interested can not just donate, but share it with friends to help raise money.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what I'll do is I'm going to post all the information, the contact information up along here with some of those pictures that you gave me and the video stuff.
Yeah.
And that's it. Do you have anything else you want to throw in before we say goodbye?
No, Evan, thanks so much for having me on. Ambulance World rocks, man. It's really, it's
Yeah.
an awesome site.
Okay, thanks for joining us, the Eitan.
Yeah, thank you.
And stay safe.
Thanks for listening to the Ambulance World podcast at www.ambulanceworld.com. Please remember to like us on Facebook and sign up for our free newsletter and updates. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your friends on Facebook and Twitter. Any questions or comments, please feel free to contact us at info@ambulanceworld.com. Stay safe and enjoy life.